alive, let's hit the dance floor.
Guys,
Don't work too
welcome
hard,
back
my
to
break
Retired Chaos. I'm your host, Mariana. Before we get into it, if you're new here, hi. I'm so glad that you found me. I post a lot of 360 wellness content, so think physical, mental, emotional health. I basically take all of the things that I learn, my experiences, things that I research, wrap it in a bow and give it to you. So if you like that kind of content, why don't you stay a while? Today is my first ever guest, my best friend Corrie. You guys have heard me talk about her in a couple of episodes recently, and she finally decided to pop in and say hello.
Hello, it's me.
Yes.
I'm here.
I don't really even know how we ever met. You just basically took over my room in 625.
Yeah, it's funny because we lived in the same house at different times.
Yeah.
So, like in college, we didn't actually meet in college. We just went to the same college and had like the same friends.
Yeah.
And that friend group has just like grown and grown post college. And like all of the relationships, I feel like have just gotten closer, which is really fortunate because I feel like so many people are like lonely at this stage in their life.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel that way because I feel like I have so many good friendships that came out of college for me and like stuck around.
Yeah, that's true. 625 was like, how would you describe? I would describe it was a huge house.
Yeah.
Okay. It was 6 rooms
Mm-hmm.
and it was a revolving door basically
Basically.
of girls that would come in, and every single girl that would come in essentially became one of our besties.
Basically, like I only lived there for 6 months, really, because
Yeah.
I had like a gap between when I graduated undergrad and when I was going to physical therapy school.
Yeah.
And I needed somewhere to live. And I had met Danny one time. Like I'd met Danny more than once. I had met Allie one time, and they were just
Really?
like, "Do you want to like live with us?" And I was like, "I need somewhere to live." I mean, it's college, so you're like, "Yeah, whatever."
I do
I'll-
need somewhere to live.
What? 5 roommates. I remember being like, this is either going to be one of my best or worst decisions of my college career. And then by the end of living there, like I got a matching tattoo of our address
Yep.
with multiple of the other girls. So it's safe to say it went into the best decision bucket.
That's
but
true.
it
I
was
never got the
crazy.
tattoo. I never got the
It's not too
tattoo.
late. We can go today if you
Because-
want.
I'm so glad you said that. Because if it was for me, I would be 100% tatted up, but I'm not going to do it. But I want like the 625 on my finger or something.
That'd be really cute.
But what I was saying is that there have been many different references in my episode where I have referenced books and quotes and just like perspectives that I have gotten through talking with this woman. So let's talk about what you do for a living, because I think it's the most interesting thing ever. So
Yeah, it's pretty unique. Like I mentioned a little bit ago, I went to physical therapy school after undergrad, so I'm a physical therapist. And then when I was in PT school, I learned about this specialty called pelvic health that I had never heard of before, even though I was like headed to PT school. And basically, it's a specialty that physical therapists and occupational therapists can do where you help people with very like specific bowel, bladder, sexual dysfunction type issues, as well as pain that like kind of revolves around the pelvis. And so I had always had like tummy issues and like painful periods and all this stuff. And like my mom had gynecological issues when she went through menopause. Really? Yeah. And my sister has endometriosis. And so I like realized it was like a light bulb went off in my head in PT school. I was like, this, it's one of those things that you go to the doctor and you're like, gosh, there's just like nobody that actually knows how to help with this stuff.
yeah.
And then I was in PT school and I was like, there is. We just like don't know about them. And so then I became one. And
wait,
so,
that's how you got into it? Is that the reason?
That's literally the reason. I learned that it was a thing in PT school. I was like, this is so interesting. Like, I did not know this exists. I fully went into PT school. Like, geriatrics and neuro was my favorite thing. Like, during observations and stuff, trying to get admitted to school. And so I love like Parkinson's diagnosis, Alzheimer's, that sort of thing. That's what I went in thinking I would treat coming out of school. I still love that stuff. I very rarely treat anyone with those conditions anymore because that's just like not my primary population. But I just like totally pivoted and went into pelvic health instead. I
Wait,
love it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You're just used to me being like,
I'm just used to like every time I have a gut health issue, I'm like, Corrie?
what's happening with my poop?
Yeah. Yeah. Like 3 years ago, I would like refer to her. I've grown up, but I was like, she's the butt doctor.
I'm not
She-
not the butt doctor.
I'm not the butt doctor, but that's just not the right
Yeah.
word. I saw a TikTok the other day where it was like, how many of you can say what your best friend does? Like, what is their title? And I was like, butt doctor. Check.
If you go to my Instagram, it does say like poop queen, because that's what my colleagues refer to me as, because we all kind of niche down even a little bit further, especially as you get more, advanced in your career. So we all start treating all the things.
Yeah.
And then I have really gotten into like IBS,
Yeah.
Crohn's, like all of the poop dysfunction problems. And so my colleagues are like, I have a patient with a really bad hemorrhoid. Like, what do I do? And I'm like, you got
I
this.
got
Let me
you.
walk you through.
Come here.
You can take care of it. I promise you, it's not that hard.
Wait, okay, so
Normal.
IBS, Crohn's, and just like, are those things, do they happen because of like hormonal imbalances, or do you carry a gene?
So IBS is one that myself and many other providers kind of refer to as like a trash can diagnosis. The proper term is a diagnosis of exclusion. So they've looked at all the like diseases and cancers and scary yucky stuff, and they've ruled it out.
Okay.
And so you basically just have tummy probs, and they're like, that's called IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. So your bowels are upset. So I treat that a lot because as the public health physical therapist, we treat like the whole body and all of the functions of the body. So it's not just gut or just neuro or just muscle or it's not just anything. It's all of it. And so IBS is a issue that responds really well to that, because usually it's just a dysfunctional system. You don't have like a disease.
Oh, interesting.
Crohn's is pretty genetic. That's not my area of expertise of like the etiology, like where it comes from, but it is genetic. And then there's other things. I treat a lot of patients with endo, which a lot of times they have bowel dysfunction before anything else, especially if they start to
Is
have
endo
symptoms.
like like
Endometriosis.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
Endometriosis.
Okay.
And then thyroid dysfunction can cause bowel issues. So I don't treat the thyroid dysfunction. I can help with the subsequent bowel issues.
Right. Okay.
Because it can just slow down or speed up everything in your system, including your bowels, and including like sexual function, urinary function, that stuff too.
Oh, wow.
And then PCOS is probably what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Where
I
that
get
is
stuck
like
with
a
PCOS
hormonal...
and underactive thyroid.
Yes, thyroid dysfunction and PCOS are very like hormone function based. So again, that's one of those where like I don't treat that per se.
Yeah.
I help them get into the correct offices with the correct providers who are going to actually help them fix that, like the actual endocrine dysfunction and the hormonal issues. And then I help them to resolve the symptoms and like prevent them from coming back in the future.
All of those things are tied into the liver, right? Like that's just like your way of detox. And so that's not, I might be sounding stupid because I don't know anything, but like.
It's just like a big oversimplification.
Yeah.
So it's not, I wouldn't say it's wrong because your liver health is super important.
Yeah.
But especially as far as like hormonal function, like it's everything. Like I was just listening to
it's just so hard because everybody has gut health issues right now. Like gut health is like the rage right now on social media. Like everybody is like gut health, probiotic and detoxing and hormone balance and all of these things, and it's like just one symptom, which is like the most frustrating thing for me.
Yeah.
Like side story, okay, I was diagnosed with an underactive thyroid, Hashimoto's, when I was 14. The doctor just like came in and was like, yeah, well, you have an underactive thyroid, like you have an imbalance of hormones, you're gonna get fat, which is like the worst thing that you can say.
Did they really say that?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I cannot make this up. She was like, you might gain weight, get fat a little bit, like without
Forget
any
the cardiovascular
control.
issues or the digestive dysfunction. They're just like, you're gonna probably get fat.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. She was like,
Okay.
you're gonna gain weight, and you're not gonna know why, and you're not gonna be able to control it. And then this past December, I went and got all my blood work done, and I did it the year before that too. And I went to an endocrinologist in Mexico, and he looked at both of my things side to side, and he's like, if I didn't even know who you were and I didn't know your backstory, you don't have Hashimoto's.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have an underactive thyroid. It could be something else, but like you don't have that. And then that's when you were like, it might be PCOS because they follow symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I just felt like my whole entire identity went out the window, because this entire time I've just been like performing as like, I have an underactive thyroid. If I don't take care of my thyroid, I could have thyroid cancer, I could have this, I could have that. And now I don't know. And so like just going back to what you're saying there, it's like it's not just this one thing. I'm like, it's the most frustrating thing for it to just not be this one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like for me and like other people that have, and it all, I feel like the biggest symptom when you start noticing that you may have something, it all comes from gut health, is what the internet says.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, like, when you feel like you have gut health issues or where you feel like you have something, where would you start to figuring something out?
Yeah. So I'm biased because I would say if you start with a like holistic public health specialist, they're going to guide you through where you need to start because everyone is going to be different. Like some people are probably really going to need to start with their diet. Like I see that all the time and they're like, "Oh, I have all these problems. I take all these supplements." And I'm like, "Do you like eat vegetables?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Okay, fair. Like it's hard." I'm not like shaming anyone. And I'm like, no amount of probiotics and digestive enzymes are going to help you if you just like don't eat fruits and vegetables and protein and like you're existing off of like gluten-free crackers.
So you can't tell me how I can have a roll of Oreos and then have enzymes and probiotics and be fine.
There's lots of people who can because their system is resilient and they can manage that. And like, and that's great for them. Like I don't have like a medical issue with that. It's just you have to have a good functioning digestive system.
And if you don't,
yeah. So many of my patients, I start with I check everything. Like I'm like, are there any red flags? Like are we worried about like a medical issue that has gone undiagnosed? So assuming there's no red flags and we're just have an issue that like no one can figure out, I start by working on breathing, pelvic floor function, and improving physical mobility. And then I give them behavioral changes to do. So a lot of my patients, again, same things. It's like we're not sleeping enough. We're not drinking enough water. We're not eating to have like good healthy poops that get all the way through your digestive system in like an appropriate amount of time, because a lot of digestive issues are due to things getting digested way too slowly or way too quickly.
yeah.
So we want our digestive system to be able to kind of like accommodate to whatever we're putting into it and digest it appropriately. Like it should be smart enough and have the tools at its disposal to do that.
Yeah.
But if we are dehydrated, not sleeping, not getting any rest, like you don't have to rest all the time, but we need to rest sometimes to have good digestion. We need to move often to have good digestion. Like it really comes down to those nitty-gritty boring things of just like you need to have like a healthy human lifestyle. Because I think particularly why you see on the internet so many people being like, oh, I have all this gut dysfunction, I have this gut dysfunction. Like a lot of us in general go through traumatic times, and then like as a global society we've had like the biggest shit show of the past few years.
Boy, don't even get me started.
Like, the longest time ever. And like for me personally, like I said, tummy issues and gut issues are like so much of what got me into this profession. And improving my diet and and like improving my breathing and learning appropriate bowel habits changed my life. And now that all of that stuff is better, there's still sometimes that I'm like, oh my gosh, like my stomach is hurting. It feels like there's nothing I can do about it. What's like wrong with me? And the more therapy I've done, the more I'm like, I'm upset.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like,
Like,
does
and
stress have to do with this?
well, not even, it
Stress and like
doesn't,
traumatic events.
it doesn't have to be stress. Sometimes it's just emotions. Like, a lot of us get upset stomachs when we're sad or angry or like things like that. And so sometimes we're trying to diagnose an issue that is just your body trying to tell you something. I always say, like, our body, any symptom we have is just our body trying to tell us something. So
Yeah.
it may be a pathological thing. Your body may be trying to say, hey, you have a medical issue, go seek immediate medical help. Your body may be saying, hey, you have gotten 6 hours of sleep in the past 2 days. Like, you need to go.
You need to
lay the
go
fuck
take a
down.
nap,
Yeah.
Sarah.
And whether that shows up as like back pain, stomach issues, migraines, whatever, like I see all that stuff in my office and I help treat all that stuff in my office. And a lot of it is teaching people how to actually like decompress, rest, take a deep breath, down regulate their nervous system. Because a lot of gut issues, again, of what you eat is so important. And I treat a lot of patients who they are eating immaculately. They're working with highly qualified dietitians. They're eating all the right things, and their digestion is still like super slow. And a lot of times that can be due to stress, grief, or just like lack of rest. Because most people have heard of like the fight or flight side of our nervous system, like the
Yeah.
sympathetic side,
Girl.
which yeah, no, most of us are very familiar with. And then a lot of what people are talking about is like we need to get into the parasympathetic mode or whatever, which is important. And that's what we call rest and digest.
Rest and digest, baby.
Because things like digestion, reproduction, all that sort of stuff can wait
Yeah.
while you face whatever scary email from your boss or traffic chat. So, like the stressor, all the stuff that you can do in rest, your body perceives as like being able to wait, right? And so it'll literally wait. And so some of my patients have really slow gastric motility, which is where things go into your digestive system. They don't come out very quickly, which
Oh
is
my
like
God.
a major issue. And a lot of what we work on is like, yeah, like the physical body stuff, but it is also like, at what points in your day are you just like gonna take a break?
Yeah.
Like, just go walk outside for 5 minutes, go stare out a window, like do something that helps to regulate your nervous system. Um, so it's not super
It's so complex.
surprising. Yeah.
I wish that it was like okay, X equals Y. Like,
Yeah.
and it's not. It's really not.
Well, and I think part of what a lot of my patients have told me they appreciate about me is I'm just like, yeah, like, and we can make room to grieve that it's not simple anymore. Like, taking care of your body is not easy in the culture that we live in. Like, you have to,
Yeah.
like, have pretty strong boundaries.
With like everything, like
With
work, relationships,
and
yourself.
with yourself.
Yeah.
Which I think is the hardest for people.
Yeah.
Myself included.
If you're in a toxic relationship and you cannot poop, you should
Yeah.
get out of that toxic relationship so
No,
that you
literally.
can poop.
I've had a few patients with really difficult issues, and the more rapport we build and the more we like chit chat and stuff, like truly they are in an abusive relationship. And I'm like, your body will,
It's telling you, get the fuck out of it.
it will literally shut down. Because also, you can't rest and digest if your nervous system doesn't think you're safe.
Yeah.
And so our bodies and our brains don't actually differentiate that much between physical and like emotional safety. And that affects bowel function, urinary function, sexual function a lot too.
Yeah, because I'm also a firm believer of like you are what you put in your mind. Your brain is just the operating system for the rest of the, just function.
Yeah.
And so I think like just having really good relationships is super important, which kind of leads me to like a little bit of a segue because I wanted to talk about this for a while. I want to talk about this on my last podcast episode about friendships. But these relational nutrients, yes.
Yeah.
Relational nutrients that I think a lot of people are so bad at. And I think that if at any point you're in a bad situation or you have a bad relationship with someone and both parties want to fix it, I
Yeah.
think like that's like the best place to start.
It's
Or
a
one
great
of
place
them.
to start. It's just very like, it's definitely not easy, but it is simple. So if you
Yeah.
have two willing parties, you can sit down and learn about it together and be like, okay, we're going to start trying to utilize this. Like, it's not some complex method or anything
Yeah.
like
Okay,
that.
so what is relational nutrients? Like in the
Yeah.
most simple way.
It's a tool that I learned from leadership coaching, which is something that I get to do through my profession. And it's basically, I forget who coined it originally. I want to say it
Dr.
was,
Townsend
yeah,
is his name.
Townsend.
Townsend, yeah.
Yeah. So definitely not something that I made up, just something I learned about from other experts. And basically, there's 4 quadrants of different kinds of nutrients. So quadrants 1 and 2 are ones that build like a sense of connection.
Mm-hmm.
And then quadrants 3 and 4 are things that
I gotta look it up.
are also important to relationships, but you need connection first before you proceed into quadrants 3 and 4. So things in quadrants 1 and 2 are things like validation, acceptance, attunement, giving someone hope, respect,
contentment, comfort.
comfort.
Oh, containment,
Yeah.
yes, comfort.
All these sorts of things where like I think we struggle with them because it feels like you're not doing anything.
What do you mean?
So like if you come to me and like, it's funny because there's actually a really good example. There's this one time you were going through a really challenging time and you were talking to me on the phone and talking on the phone.
Every time I have an issue, I'm like, who am I going to call? Should I call my therapist first or should I call Corrie? I'm going to call Corrie first because my therapist is going to charge me. So I'm going to call Corrie first.
You for free.
Yeah. You guys can't. I can.
Yes. Y'all can all hit me up. Book an appointment.
Her consulting like rate is like $500. Sorry.
Not for patients. Not for patients.
A little bit. Not for patients?
No, for patients it's less expensive.
Oh.
That's like a whole other thing.
Okay.
But
keep going.
anyway,
you guys are getting this for free.
yeah. So like you were telling me just like everything you were going through, and there was a lot of challenging things, and I was just offering you validation and like attunement. So validation, I think, is remembering off the top of my head is like expressing that someone's experience is not to be dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, Mariana, that is really hard. Like, I think the way you're feeling makes a lot of sense. And I don't blame you for feeling that way. I know those feelings aren't what you want to be feeling, but like, I think it makes a lot of sense given what you're going through. It's really, really hard right now.
You do that so well because then like most of the time people just want to be heard. They don't want advice. They don't want you to like fix it for them. It's like they just want to be heard. And so they want to feel like they're not alone. Like I really was feeling like, can someone please just
validate me?
Yeah, like am I being crazy or like
No.
what is going on?
Yeah. Well, and so what I was saying earlier is that quadrants 1 and 2 are connecting. And then quadrants 3 and 4 are things like advice, perspective, challenges, I'm going off from memory, but things like that we're used to.
Feedback, confrontation. So if you're not good at confrontation, it's probably because you're missing 1 and 2
If
quadrants.
you're like, oh, confrontation never ends well for me, like you might be skipping past the connecting part because all of those things are part of a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
But a relationship starts with connection.
Yes.
So if someone comes up to you and is like, if you're trying to share with someone after your really, really tough day and they're just like, oh, can I offer you some feedback you could have done? That whole situation could have gone totally differently if you had just done this one thing differently.
It comes off as like you're criticizing me or like you're kicking me when I'm down, It
comes across, all of the quadrants, 3s, and 4s don't come across well without connection. So like, let's say in that scenario I just said where you called me and I just validated you. You did express, you were like, that just like helped a lot and I really appreciate that and things like that. And then you can ask someone like, can I give you some feedback?
Yeah.
And if they say yes, so with their permission, which again, this is something I learned in coaching. I didn't like invent this. Then if someone says, yeah, I actually would love your feedback coming from someone who has like validated them, given them comfort, those sorts of things. then you can be like, hey, like, I know you're going through a really tough time, and I think I could help connect you with some opportunities if you're ready for that. Like, but I'm not sure if you're ready, and that's okay, but that's kind of why I'm holding back.
Yeah. I love that.
Or something like that, something connecting, comforting, and kind. We just all just want to fix each other so bad.
And you can't do that. You can't fix
can't.
anybody, especially when like they're not in the position to like hear you out or feel
No.
comfortable or any of that.
Well, and no one likes to feel like a project. Even my patients, like
No one likes to feel like a project.
Yeah, you're not my project. You're not my problem. Like, you're a responsible individual adult, and like, I'm just someone in your life who like gets to share life with you.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's like, your choices are your choices, your decisions are your decisions. I would love to offer you some feedback as someone who's like rooting for you.
Yeah.
But that's like it.
I love that.
It's not my
You're
business.
so it's otherwise I'll just mind my own fucking business and fuck right off.
You're still fun. We can just pal around if you're like, I actually don't want your feedback. Okay.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Do you think that that's like the reason why most people like get into toxic relationships, because of that main reason? I mean, other than like ego and other traumas from other things.
Yeah.
But like just like being able to, because I, I I know you're gonna listen to the rest of the episode because you're my best friend.
I was already gonna, but now I'm gonna listen tonight.
Yeah.
After you go home.
After you go home, I'll be like, "Yo, pop, come on, give me a view right there." Okay, thank you. Because of I talked about this friendship breakup that I went through, and it just was like kind of out of the blue.
Yeah.
And like when she, said all the things that she said, I was like, that's not how I conveyed it, or like that's not this and that's not that, and I felt really defensive because she was just kind of like coming at me. And I have played that in my head a lot. Guys, after that happened, like, here I am on this episode being like, you know what? If they do that to you, fuck them. But like, fuck them. And then I turn my camera off and I'm like sobbing. I'm sobbing that my friend could possibly do this to me. I
shouldn't be laughing at that, but I'm like,
no, you can picture. I'm a little bit dramatic.
I know.
My friends know. They're like, "Oh my god, you're so dramatic for no reason." And I'm like, "Just let me be." But I just like didn't realize like, okay, how like this friendship was a friendship that I really, really cherished, and I thought that I did really well to like make her feel good, make her, I don't know. And I just like was really in my head of like where I went wrong. I was so in my head that I haven't asked you yet, but like I am going around and doing a friendship audit for myself across all my friends, which, you know what, another thing that I will, side note, we'll keep talking about this stuff or pivot to the next topic, but all of my friends that I've audited so far, which granted has only been 2 out of 6, 7 of us.
Yeah.
Have been just like, I just think it's important to have friends that are very easy and low maintenance. And like that might not be for everybody, but like that's where I'm at in my life, where it's like I just want to be able to, like, I don't have the capacity right now to call you every day and to like, make sure that I'm like hitting every single mark with you, and like that's something that I really like about our friendship group, is that like, or our friend group, is that we're just so low maintenance, and like we don't have to call each other all the time, and we just show up, and like it's really simple. Like I remember Allie calling me, like I think it was last year or the year before that, to say happy birthday to me. And I was like, that was 3 months ago, dude. And she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, oh my God. She was like, happy birthday. Like, I answer the phone and she's like singing at the top of her lungs. I'm like, girl, you are 90 days. So like,
still wished you happy birthday that year though.
I know. I was like, dang, that's like really good. I'm actually really proud of you for doing that.
I remember there was one year where I literally called you on your birthday just as a coincidence. Like I forgot it was your birthday. And I called you, and I was like, what are you doing today? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, we just had a perfectly normal conversation, and then I was like, I'm going to talk to you later, bye. And then I went on Instagram, and everyone was like
Happy
tagging me,
birthday!
like, happy birthday, Mariana. And I was like, oh my God, I hope she thinks I called her because it's her birthday. Because
I was like, dude, she is so amazing. She just called me on my birthday.
fully forgot it was her birthday.
Every time around like in
I'm
June.
not the birthday friend though. Like I don't remember.
I'm not,
birthdays.
but like that's the thing. It's like I don't think that you should have to be.
That's Marissa.
Like, Marissa's so good at it.
Yeah, she's
but like,
in charge of birthdays.
It's like low maintenance friends are the best friends. Like, you shouldn't be getting angry at someone for not saying happy birthday, or like you're starting a new thing. Like, I started this podcast and I was never expecting my friends to like repost it and constantly watch and take cliff notes and then reach out to me and be like, here is what I got from your podcast. Like, you need to be your number one fan and just have the people that you have for like certain things. Like Marissa said it really good, is she was like, every single one of our girlfriends has like a niche, and
like
we
what
all
they're good at.
go and talk. Yeah, like I go to
so
you
true.
for like information, like real like medical research, or like just real good advice. And then if I want to get deep on the other spectrum, I'll go to Danny. You know what I mean? Like, if I want love and just like snuggles and just like absolute comfort and like no judgment, Marissa. If I go for, like, if I need a laugh, like, I'm gonna call Allie. You know what I mean? I don't know my niche, but I'll figure it out. I think mine's
really
more of
funny.
like silly. Yeah.
You're who I call when I'm mad.
Really?
Yeah, like, because you're the only you're the like one person who doesn't try to like, you actually are very good at validation, because you don't like try to talk me off, like, and I'm not on a literal ledge, but like if I'm mad at people, which no, literally, like if I am upset, I like to call you, because you just like let me be upset. You're not like, oh my gosh, like I'm sure they didn't mean it like that, like, or like,
I'm like, we ride at dawn.
but then nothing has to happen, which kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is like, I just need to vent, and you're like my venting friend, among other things. You're very fun.
Amazing.
But you're also very helpful to like vent too.
I also feel like I'm like the most dramatic one in the group, and it reminds everybody that like they're not so crazy.
It's okay.
And I'm okay to be that.
Well,
like,
and even like, and not to try to tie it all together, but truly, like, letting your emotions out is a lot healthier than holding them in. And sometimes calling a friend is the best thing you can do for like all your tummy issues.
Yeah.
It's just like, I just need to go tell someone how mad I am and why.
Release it.
Who's gonna be like, you should be mad about that.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
I'm like, we should go TP their house.
You should do anything about it, but like, be mad about it. Why not?
Well,
That's
I'm
not
like, you
hurting
should do
anybody.
something about it. Let's go TP their
I
house.
always say that, but we never do.
I'm
so
like, I got some eggs. I got some extra eggs. Like, what are we gonna do about it? What are we gonna do? Like, I can be a little petty.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like these low maintenance friends. And I was doing a friendship audit and I got nothing. I'm like, why aren't anybody telling me anything? Because I was expecting like Marissa to be like, well, I think that I'm not getting this from you. And like, you know, Danny being like, I don't think I'm getting this from you. And they were like, I don't know why you need a friendship audit. Like, I love you. You're fine. Like, just be you. And I just felt so like, I was like, oh, I'm not a bad friend. Like, wow. Yeah. Like, you know, so, but you're right. It is like super important to like go talk to somebody and just be able to release.
I don't know. I think friendships are so hard because everyone's in different seasons too.
That's what I talked about. Yes.
And like, so it's just also like even Danny today, she's one of our friends that she has 3 kids and I have 3 dogs.
3 Frenchies.
Not the same thing. And I told her today when I saw her, I went to go watch her play polo, which was a treat. And I was like, I have been meaning to call you for like a month. And she was like, yeah, I said to myself the other day, you know how you haven't texted in a while, Corrie? And she was like, did I text you?
And then I still didn't text you, bitch.
Yeah. And it's just like, it is nice to have friends that you can be like, you have your stuff going on, I have mine, but that doesn't mean that like we hate each other.
Yeah.
It's just is what it is sometimes. And I think having the like ability to have confrontation or conflict of like, hey, I feel like I'm putting a lot into this friendship and I'm not getting an equitable amount out. So I need to maybe reel it in a little bit and invest in other friendships where I feel like I am getting more from them. Yes. It's totally fair and people can do that. And I think that's really hard.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are not comfortable having those
No.
conversations. It's a lot easier just cutting someone off or getting upset about it.
And it's like, I just think conflict is really good in any relationship, romantic relationships, like friendships,
can be
even
healthy.
in parents. Yeah, if you know how to handle it right. And you know,
Yeah.
you're able to do it. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about the relational nutrients, because I think that's a very healthy way to start.
Yeah, I think they help prevent, I think they help me specifically feel like a lot of things that could become a conflict don't have to become a conflict. Like when I learned about them, I introduced them to my husband, who is an absolute gem of a human being.
I love him.
Loves me to bits and pieces. Amazing husband. And he will do that thing where like you're just trying to vent and he'd try to give me advice. And so I specifically showed it to him and I was like,
You're here.
would really appreciate if you could practice giving me validation instead of advice. And again, gem of a human being, he was like, okay, like explain it to me. How do I do that? And he like he does that now.
Yeah.
And there's so many like little fights that we just don't have anymore because
Yeah.
he's not invalidating me, even though that was never his goal. But that's the consequence of just like jumping straight to giving someone advice.
Yeah.
And it's a good tool to have if you are like, I need to have some confrontation. Like if I was like, Mariana, I understand you're going through your own stuff and it's been super duper hard. And I, you know, I like have so much empathy for you in that situation you're going through. Is a lot. And the way you were talking the other day really hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
Like both can be true at the same time.
I love how you, when you talk, this is a big thing that I was taught in therapy. And it's not like a statement, but is like a disregarding word, and is like a more positive affirming word, where it's like two things can simultaneously be happening and that's okay. Like, so you do like your business, the leadership stuff that you're into, and then you do the consulting, and you just do a lot of things, and like you're helping run this like business, and you're growing this business with like so many different locations. There's a lot of people that wish, like I look up to you a lot of that, because I'm like, how does she juggle so much? I can barely even fucking breathe. I want to understand, like, did you always believe in yourself?
It's a really hard question to answer. I remember just always thinking like, I can do it. Like if someone else can do it, why can't I do it too? And so I think there's a lot of people I look up to and I'm like, great. If they're doing it, that means it's possible. And so I just got to figure out how I can do it too. You know, instead of like, I don't know where I learned that from, but I feel like a lot of times upward comparison makes us feel ashamed of like, oh, look at them, they're doing so much, you know, why am I not there yet?
Relatable.
Yeah, so, me too, lots of times. And I feel like when I notice my brain wanting to go in that direction, like being self-deprecating with comparison, I am like, you know what? I can compare myself to that person and be like, I am healthy, I am smart, I am capable, and if they can do it, there's no reason I couldn't do it too.
Like if you're gonna compare yourself, you're gonna compare yourself in a healthy way.
Yeah, and I think also just getting out of like a scarcity mindset, like, well, if they have it, I can't have it too. Like it's got to be one or the other of us. Like we're competing for these goals, which is kind of hard, especially given the fact that like getting into PT school, there was a certain amount of seats and there were thousands of us competing for 45 seats.
Yeah.
And it is like a competition.
Yeah.
But
wait, then how did you get through like that? Because I remember that was a very stressful time of your life.
It was very, because I don't like that. Like, I feel like I am a competitive person. However, I'm not really trying to beat everyone else. Like, I don't view, I guess ambitious is maybe a better word than competitive, because I don't see why we all can't win at whatever our individual dreams like are. you know?
Yeah, I just think like in this world now today, and maybe it has to do with like an overwhelming like over consumption of a lot of different things, like
Mm-hmm.
products, goods, information, other people's lives. Like I think we overconsume, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that can be really overwhelming to the point where you do feel like they already did that. Like where's there room for me? What would you say is like a good way to kind of, do you think that there could be like a little bit of a framework or like a workshop that you could do with yourself? This is helpful for me.
I'm like, oh, you've never
This is
asked me these questions
this is
before.
a selfish question.
I do think a lot of believing in yourself comes from accomplishing things. So, like, big things, small things. So, even like when I was young, something I'll definitely give my parents credit for, and something that was a little challenging at times, is they really did not like baby us. Like, we had to, like, figure out a lot of stuff on our own. And it was like, you can do this. Like,
Figure it out.
you can do it. Figure it out. And I think that the more you do that, the more it's like, oh, I can figure it out. And especially with the internet, like even small things, like I like to crochet. Okay. There was
Do you?
yeah.
What?
You've never crocheted in front of you?
I
I'm
would-
making a sweater right now. I'll show it to you after this podcast.
What?
But even little things like hobbies and crafts can build your self belief of like, I can start a challenging task that I don't know how I'm gonna finish it, but I'm gonna finish it. Like I'm just gonna not give up until it's done. Because
Yeah.
you start by just not knowing how that works. You go get information, you learn about it, you try, you fail, you try again. And then eventually by the end, you have something you can be proud of. And then the next time you start a similar project, you're starting from a higher jumping off point. And for me personally, that's how it would break down like success in anything I've been successful at is just trial and error and not giving up. But the more you do that, the more it's kind of like a muscle.
Yeah. I guess
You
that's true.
just, which also in the gym, in your muscles, you try and fail and you don't give up. And when I first started lifting, the 45-pound bar felt so heavy. I was like, how could people ever like put this over their head? Like I was literally, and I didn't start lifting until college, and I was like, this is so heavy. And now I like warm up with the bar, I grab it with one hand, I re-rack it. But that's after years and years and years of getting used to it and like building that strength, building those muscles, building those neuromuscular connections. I also think being a nerd helps. Like being like, oh, this neuromuscular connection just needs some more like practice. And when I go to sleep and I wake up tomorrow, it'll be easier because your brain practices while you sleep. So like I know I'm frustrated now. I'm just gonna push through for 5 more minutes and then I'm gonna be done. And then tomorrow's a new day and my brain is gonna be ready to go again.
Your brain practices while you sleep?
Mm-hmm. And it cleans itself. So you're gonna be like clear headed and literally like more coordinated and you learn things better. My dance teacher when I was little, I don't think she knew that like your brain practices in your sleep, but she'd be like, no, do it 3 more times, sleep on it, and then do it again in the morning.
Wow, I had no idea.
Okay, Mrs. Caps. Stop yelling at me.
I'm crying. Enough is enough, bitch. Another selfish question.
Yeah.
How would you, I guess, silence that like little voice in your head that's like, no, you cannot do this?
I think that little voice in your head is trying to protect you. And of all the like therapy and stuff I've been exposed to personally and professionally, there's like, you know, your inner child is trying to protect you. And sometimes that's the voice in your head. And then I also learned about this thing this last year where you talked about like our internal saboteurs, and there's this little like saboteurs quiz you can go take and kind of see
Really
like what your
I'll drop it in
are.
the link.
I'm gonna make her take it after this. You'll probably make another podcast about that.
Here we go again. I'm gonna cry. Just kidding.
No, because like for me, one of my tendencies is to be more like hyper analytical, and like if things are too hard, I get super logical with it. I don't get super emotional with it, which isn't always isn't always good. Like I think it's perceived as more beneficial because it does help, especially if you are like a doctor. Like you can't like have an emotional breakdown if things get hard.
No, you cannot.
I've had patients where like they ring my little doorbell and I'm literally like crying because I got the worst news, and I'm like,
Hello.
hi,
Hello.
how are you doing today? Like, oh, can I get you a glass of water? Like, and I'm just like, you just shove it down deep inside.
Oh my God.
Which again is like why I need therapy, because I'm like, eventually you gotta take it out. You can't just keep doing that forever. But I think that voice inside your head, it's helpful for me to be like, oh my gosh, excellent point. Got anything else good for me? Like, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
And like, I'm a very like sassy person, which again, people don't see. I mean, you do see
I
that
love
in
it.
Dr. Corrie a little bit if you follow me on Instagram. But I'm also like, yeah, like I hear you, and like,
What about it?
What?
Yeah.
And then what? Like, what else you got, you know? Because
Yeah.
it is like, it's just trying to protect you. It's just vocalizing your fears, and fears are normal. And like, there literally is, I mean, for me, I applied to like 9 PT programs. Like, yeah, there is only 45 seats, but there's 100 programs. So, like, you can get in somewhere.
45 times 9. Duh.
That's a lot. And like, you know, and at that point I had gone through all the things. Like, I think for me, working backwards from goals, and like I've talked to you about this too, like you have to figure out what you actually want, in my opinion, and then work backwards from it, because that's what's going to give you like a path that is realistic versus just being like, I want to be famous. Okay, for what? For why? Like, what are you going to do? Like, that's probably not going to happen if you just keep up waking up and doing the same thing day in and day out, right? But if you're like, that's really what I want, and I want to do this thing, and I want to get really good at that, and I want to be known for this, you probably can. Like, why not? Other people do it all the time.
I love that. And I also never saw the perspective of like, because I always thought, and like there's a lot of books that talk about like the little voice in your head is lying, but it's like or it's just giving you a different perspective, or like you said, it's just showing you your fears.
Yeah.
And I never really thought about that. Like I had a therapist that had me name my little voice in my head. And I was like, when you think of like the little voice in your head or how you mean you are to yourself, like describe her. And I was like, I described her in like the worst possible way. When it's like, oh, maybe you should just be friends with that voice in your head telling you these things because all it's wanting to do is protect you.
This is going to sound silly, but bear with me. But I think a lot of times we hear one voice in our head, but it really is multiple voices. Like, I do think it is your inner child and their fears. And I do think it is the people who you know are going to criticize you. And I do think it is like fear of failure. And I think sometimes it's also fear of success. Like, if I do succeed at this, then people are going to think I'm full of myself, or people are going to try to take advantage of me, or the way people view me is going to change. Like, part of my journey in my career has been putting a lot of content out on Instagram. And that was really hard at first because I was like, you know, I'm the poop. And now, years later, I'm the poop queen. But when I started, I was like, I am really passionate about this, and I know I'm going to impact people's lives, and I know I want to do this. Yeah. And I know people are going to think it's weird at first.
And that's really hard. That's like where I'm at right now too. Yeah, like it's like, oh, it's really difficult for me to like put myself out there and like do a podcast and be like, no one's listening, but like I know that I have something good. Yeah. You know? And like I know that it will be if I just continue and believe in myself. Yeah. And things like that.
I think for me, what made it easier was I was like, I'm making this for myself. So I only make content that I think is funny. I don't just like follow the trend.
This is hilarious.
I literally, you all see this, but I am always the first like on all my content.
I love that.
Like it immediately. I post it and then I go like it because I like it. So it doesn't matter if anybody else does.
I used to think that was like so cringe, and I'm like, and now I'm like, I'm liking my own shit.
There's a lot of freedom in being a little bit cringy. I'm like,
That's
oh,
true.
and she's so cringy over there with her career she loves. Like, ew. Like, okay. What else you got?
Yeah, seriously. Oh my gosh.
Team is amazing. Ew. Like, okay.
Ew. Talking about poop. Wow, she
Ew.
likes that.
Changing people's lives. Gross.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, okay, whatever. But again, now that's like, okay, on the other side of that, that's easy to say. In the beginning, I didn't feel that way. So I think it also, there's an exercise I learned where it was like you write a diary entry from the future you're going to have as if it's present tense.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's kind of like affirmations.
Kind of, yeah. It is
manifestation, which people say manifestation is like demonic.
I don't think it's demonic.
I just think the way that people think about manifestation is like, especially in the Christian world, where they're like, it's demonic. And I'm like, I don't think you're understanding the way that people are portraying it to be. It's not like, oh, I am manifesting and like the devil come in and take it. It's more of like, no, I'm manifesting it to myself so that I change my patterns and rewire my brain. Yeah, because if the more I tell myself I'm manifesting, so my brain will start acting this way.
Yeah.
And not.
Which again, being a little nerdy helps, because it's like, if you tell yourself to start looking for opportunity,
your brain will.
If you tell yourself there's an opportunity everywhere you're looking, you're gonna start seeing them.
Right. That's why the angel numbers are like so big right now.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh my God. You're like, oh my God, I got a tattoo. Like, oh my God, 222. Like, I want that. And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh my God, I see these numbers everywhere. And it's like, I think your brain is like looking for it a little bit. It's
sticking out to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that I don't do that exercise like a lot, but it has helped me in those times where I am like really struggling to get started, because I'm like, okay, I know how I think this will feel once I'm there. And so I can just tell myself that that's already where I am.
That's amazing.
And then it just makes it easier to do it. It just gets you out of your own way. For me, some people will probably try that and be like, this is too imaginary, I can't do it. That sort of stuff helps me. Therapy is the biggest thing that's probably going to make a major difference.
Huge difference. I am a big proponent of therapy.
Little tips and tricks.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of therapy.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Especially if you find a good therapist. I think too many people that I speak with, again, personally and professionally, are scared to like fire your therapist.
Fire them.
That one is like not it for you. Just like get another one. It's not that personal.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Bye-bye.
I really please reach out and say hello every once in a while. Like, that's literally it. Yeah.
Okay, our battery is about to die on the camera, so I think we can sign off.
We can wrap up.
Thank you for my therapy session, an hour therapy session. Yeah. Go follow Dr. Corrie. I'm going to link her Instagram down below. And if you like this content, do me a favor, like the podcast, follow it, DM me, let me know what other things you want to talk about, and she will be coming back, I promise.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to start charging you guys an entry fee. Just kidding.
Start a Patreon. No,
yeah. All right, guys. I'll see you next week. This is Retired Chaos. Bye.
Bye.
You feel alive, let's hit the dance floor. Don't work too hard, my break a backbone. Return to the